So, I just played a game against my chess teacher and completely thrashed him. Um, so he was playing against me with the French opening, um, and he is a master in it, so he knows basically every line of theory. But I think after playing multiple people at chess today, teaching multiple lessons, he's a bit tired, I guess. So, here was our game. I played e4. He plays e6. This is so that he can get the d5 move in, basically trying to threaten me. He's trying to attack me and gain control of the center himself, because in chess you want to control these four squares. Um, if you control those four squares, then you can do lots of things anywhere. You have just huge advantage, and there's a lot of room for mistakes for your opponents and opportunities for yourself. So I played d4, just trying to go through with, the control of the center. He plays d5, as mentioned previously. Now, I don't take, because then this would leave me with one less pawn in the center, with the open d-file. This is not bad for me. It's not bad for him either. It's fine. As you can see here, let's see, it's completely equal in position. When it says 0 or 0.1, plus is for advantage for white. If it's minus, then it's advantage for black. So let's do an example. So now, because it has minus sign, it's saying that black has the advantage, because now knight developed with the tempo on the queen. Anyway, this is aside from the point. I played d4, d5 is played, I played knight. This is just to sort of develop a piece and to protect this pawn so they don't take and don't control the center more than me. I developed my bishop. They can't take because this is pinned to the queen. So what I do next is push this pawn so that now I have, if the knight moves, then, as mentioned previously, bishop takes queen. So basically, I'm just trying to add pressure to this thing that's called a pin. The pawn is worth much less than a knight, so if they were to lose the knight to this pawn, then black would be losing completely and white would have a huge advantage. They play h6, because if I take this, they take this, I take this, they play rook here. While they lose the right to castle, hang on, let me get that back there. They take, I take the... Yeah, okay, this is the rough position. Yes. So they're going to win this pawn. This pawn's a bit of a weakness, but they've developed the rook. I have a weaker center because this pawn's gone, and now I only have this pawn. They have this pawn, and this pawn, all in the center, just against this one lonely pawn. And that's why I choose to move the bishop back to d2, and to stop the bishop from taking, because when this was back here, if they took, I would have to take with the pawn, which would mess up my pawn structure. This eventually happens in the game, and actually I decide to take in the end with my pawn, because this bishop has lots of opportunities on this file, and if it were here, then it would be blocked by this pawn, and it would only be able to move up and down this file, which would be absolutely useless. So I took with the pawn to give it this long diagonal, and to also strengthen my center. Oops. Yeah. They brought the knight in. It's in a really good outpost because of this pawn right here. The only thing that can kick this knight out, which is basically just, kick means take it out of the powerful square, remove it from this square. The only pieces that can do that are this, the pawn, and a maneuvered knight. So I would have to get that to here, or I could move it to here. And that's why I didn't really bother right now, because I did have lots of pieces. But in an endgame situation where this was the only piece remaining, this pawn was gone, and these pieces were gone, and let's say they also had those pieces left, so it's just this bishop against this knight, and my king and my rooks, then this knight would be extremely powerful, because nothing can take it, and a knight in the center has lots of opportunities, as it can travel to this square, this square, this square, this square, this square, this square, and this square, and this square. Whereas in this knight can only go here, here, and oops, here and here. And a knight on the rim is even worse, where it can only go here or here. from this square. Um, so anyway, I developed my queen. So now I'm allowed to castle kingside, and I create a tempo attacking this g7 pawn. They play g6 to stop the queen from taking, and I guess maybe also to leverage or to justify playing f5 later on. I'm not entirely sure, but mostly it's just to stop queen takes h7, g7. Sorry, I'm not good with coordinates. I'm gonna have to improve on that. So knight takes because the bishop is threatening it and challenging it for the control of the e4 square. Because if I take, then the pawn has to take, and then my queen takes, and I win a pawn. And if you're down a pawn, well, I mean, a pawn can mean the difference between life and death in chess, in high-level chess. And my chess teacher is a candidate master, which means he's very highly rated, and would easily turn a single pawn into a win. So he takes, I take, and as soon as a king moves, it isn't allowed to castle anymore, so I've lost the right to castle. But that's alright with me, because I have this strong pawn structure. The king is fairly central, and thus, because of these pawns, is well defended, and there isn't much of a threat of me being checkmated because of it. He pushes c5. This is so that he can bring out his queen, and to take here and mess up my king's structure and my king's safety. He wants to throw lots of pieces onto this side. This is the queen side, anything from this side, and this is the king side, all the way along here. He wants to throw all of his pieces onto the queen side, so in this section, whoops, he wants to throw lots of pieces into this area, because my king's on this side. And if he can put my king in lots of danger, then there's a good chance that he'll be able to eat up all of my pieces on this side. But I wasn't so worried because the attack wasn't so strong right now. In the French game, which is what we're playing, if I develop my knight here, which is often a good move, or actually a bad move because of this pawn structure, what black will do is push this pawn so that the bishop has no squares left. So that's why I played knight f3, because it also has better central control. It also defends this square right here, which is a crucial square because of my king's safety. But also, the knight has been developed in a way that attacks this square, so I need to develop something that also defends this square. Right now, because of the queen move here, and the pin on the king, which means this pawn can't move forward or diagonally to take, this pawn is hanging, which means it can be taken. If this takes here, and this takes here, this can take here, and this cannot take here, which means that my chess teacher, black, will win a piece for absolutely no cost. The knight here can absolutely safely stay here for free. There are absolutely no threats when it's here because of this pawn being pinned. This is not a defender of this square. Moving on. So in order to take away this threat of him taking, I just decided to move this pawn by taking it. My chess teacher pushed this pawn so that the queen can take, which is a good move. I decided to ignore this threat and just push h4 because he said it was a good move. He was giving me advice during this game, and I was taking it and also trying to apply what he taught me in previous lessons and what I'd learned from previous games. But I'm not so familiar with the French opening, and that's why we're playing it right now. He's trying to teach me the ways of this opening. So I played h4, and this is so that I can play on this side of the board. So while he's playing on this side, I'm playing on this side. And this results in a really double-edged, sharp game that's full of tactics and lots of calculation, which I love. I absolutely love complex chess. I'm terrible, absolutely terrible at positional chess, which means that I cannot try and form a detailed plan based on the positions I have, and basically I can't figure out a way to improve my position simply by moving pieces to squares that they are better in. But what I am okay at, apparently, according to my chess teacher, I'm good at calculating moves that will take pieces away from my opponents for free. So I can pick up and calculate things called tactics, which are basically just short maneuvers where, let's say we have a queen here and a king here, and then I move my knight from this square to here. the king and the queen are both forked, which means the king, one of them has to move, but because the king has priority, it has to go here, here, or here, or here. And then, as soon as the king moves, I can then take the queen, and the queen will die. That's a tactic. Basically, you force a variation where your opponent, is forced to make a bad move. So, he took. I ignored this, I just sort of moved my king to a more central location where it could be defended better by my pieces. I wasn't so worried about his infiltration because this pawn was blocking the knight from coming in, the knight was protecting the pawn. Everything seemed alright to me, and this rook was defended by this rook, and I also had the b file open, which was good for me. It meant that if he wanted to push pawns like the b pawn and he wanted to bring this here, then I could bring this in here, and then everything would sort of be defended, and it should be okay. So I wasn't too worried about the position. He pushed h5. I wasn't so worried because I wanted to bring my queen closer into his defenses anyway. I wanted to infiltrate his base, because you see all these holes right here. The queen can easily take advantage of that. The queen can easily take advantage of everything in here. The pawns defend everything in here, but I also have to be careful because my queen can be easily trapped when it's in here because of these pawns. The pawns all protect this square, this square, this square, this square. So I have to be kind of careful. The queen's in almost a minefield, you know. They have to tread carefully if they want to get the rewards, but can also die very easily. Now, what my chess teacher wants to do is bring another piece into this side of the board to further the weakness on my king. And he also wants to castle queenside. But what my queen right now is doing is actually stopping him from castling queenside. You may not know this, but you cannot castle through a line of attack. So let's say I had a knight. Let's say I had a bishop right here. Or no, actually that's not a good example. Let's say I had another bishop here. So the bishop takes up this, which means the king cannot castle this way. If I had a knight right here, then they would not be able to castle because they'd be castling into check. So basically you cannot castle if there is a line of sight or a line of attack going through your path to the rook. Anyway, I continued the infiltration of his base. I brought my knight in, improving its position, but also sort of forgetting about the king and going and attacking instead of defending, which I was okay with because this attack wasn't strong enough. Now, oh, hang on. Yes, so as you can see, right here, there was a huge increase right here in the advantage meter. You can see here it went from 0.5 advantage for white to 6.9 advantage, and this is because my chess teacher brought his knight back here. What he thought he was doing was blocking the line of attack so that he can castle, and at the same time allowing his bishop to come into the game and into this side to further his advantage and advance on the king. But what he hadn't realized was this move right here. So what my knight does is it has a hidden threat. It attacks the queen, but also threatens to go to this square right here. If it goes to this square, it'll be defended by this pawn, it'll attack this, this, and also that square. Too many ands in that sentence. That's how powerful the knight is. You know it's a good knight when you run out of breath. So my chess teacher, for some reason, didn't recognize this threat, because as soon as he moves this knight, the queen blocks off this square, so the king is absolutely trapped. This rook blocks his defense, his escape route, sorry, and this bishop blocks him from escaping here. So the queen successfully stops him from moving anywhere. And as you can see here, the advantage meter is completely full just for white. And that's because black has absolutely no chance of winning. What my chess teacher thought he could do is, he thought I would take here, I would take his queen, and then he would take my queen, I would take the knight, and then he would take my knight. And this would be a fairly equal position. Here, let's play it out. So I take his knight, he takes my queen. I take his queen, he takes my queen. So I take his, he takes mine. And then let's see. It's pretty equal. See, it's in fact equal, exactly 0. But what happened in the game was I simply played this move right here, knight to d6. So the queen stops all movement for the king, right? This is blocking off his escape, and then my knight comes in and finishes the king off. There is absolutely nowhere for the king to go, and he's in check, and nothing can take this powerful knight. And for all these reasons, my chess teacher lost the game. He's rated about 2,200 FIDE. I'm rated about 1,800 FIDE, as you can see in this corner, right here. Now, he has 1,500 here on this account, but that's only because of, what do you call it? That's because he hasn't played on this account very much. Also, it says here, this player uses chess computer assistance. It's a funny story, actually. He was playing against an international master, which is about 2,500 rating, and he absolutely kicked this international master's butt, and he used nothing but this opening called, I think it was the Evans Gambit. I'll show you in another video. I'll probably end up playing it. It's one of my favorite openings. Evans Gambit, or it was Two Knights Defense, which I'll also show you. But he completely kicked this international master's butt, and because of it, the international master complained about their game and told the website that I'm on that my teacher was cheating and using computer assistance because he was making all the best moves, all the moves that the computer would suggest, and so he got banned. So, a long but funny story. But yeah, so this is my victory against my chess teacher. Hope you enjoyed.